Have you ever listened to an album so full and so complete you couldn't stop listening to it? Did you ever stop to think why you couldn't stop listening to it? Was it the intro that drew you in? The beginning that painted a world so vibrant you couldn't leave? Maybe it was the ending that kept you coming back for more, time and time again. Or maybe you got stuck in the in-between, the adventure that waits for you every time you press play. These are the things I want to address today. What makes an album as good as it is? The first song on an album is always the most important. It's the invitation that invites you to the artist's world. The song isn't meant to be an all-kill or a show-stopping song, nor is it meant to do something super new and innovative in its runtime. Its only objective is to capture the listener. The hook of the story, if you will. This song is nothing more than world building. What adventures will take place next is totally up to the next few songs in the album. But for now, you are meant to be immersed in a world of the artist's creation. Where did you end up? Were you invited into a tropical wonderland filled with exotic plants and animals you've never seen before? Maybe it's a bit more elegant, and instead you find yourself in a castle that you're pretty sure could only exist in a fairy tale. Or maybe it's a bit darker, and the once blindingly white castle walls are now lined with thorny vines. This is why the first song on an album is so important. It is literally an invitation into someone else's wonderland, created so people like us could explore it. Every note in a song is placed like building blocks in a game. Where they are and how they sound is how this paradise is built. K-pop as a whole takes this a bit farther, and instead of just using a good song for the intro, they'll use, literal intros more times than not. 9 times out of 10, these intros do an amazing job of introducing people into a world, and I think they serve as great invitations. Now that you've been hooked, what adventures will you go on? Will the next few songs take your hand and guide you through the tropical forest with an ease that only someone familiar with it could achieve? Or maybe the princess, locked away in her castle, will ask you to take her out into the world instead. Whatever ends up happening, it will be decided by the next few songs in the album. This is always where the most interesting songs lie. The bangers, the experimentals, the different genre explorations. It's all about how the artist decides to tell the rest of their story. This is the climax. This is the be-all, end-all of the story. Happy? Sad? To be continued? The possibilities are endless, but without a doubt, this is where you look for the good stuff. The best part of an Oreo is always in the middle, right? There's no right or wrong way to write a story, but there is a possible gray area. You don't want your badass action movie to cut midway through and turn into a romantic comedy. That's just not how good storytelling goes, and that's not how a good album is supposed to flow either. The artist can play with the sounds and the structures, the genres and the ideas, but to completely derail and go off the tracks is a whole other story. There are, of course, exceptions to every rule. But 9 times out of 10, if I'm listening to an album and one song is this dark and grimy song about how screwed up society is, and the next is a tropical house song about how much fun the beach is with friends, yeah, I'm probably gonna lose focus. Finally, you reach the end. Every road has been traveled. Every adventure has been completed. Every good story has a good ending. How do you end a magnificent journey that was filled with some of the most amazing places you had ever been? Well, I can certainly tell you how not to do it. Imagine you're walking along the yellow brick road, little red hills in hand, and your newfound friends walking behind you. But suddenly, before you can catch a ride on a flying monkey and melt an evil little witch, the yellow brick road turns into dull sidewalk gray. The little red hills in your hand turn into nothing more than ordinary sneakers. And your friend turned out to be just a guy in a chunk of metal. This isn't Kansas. No, this is something far, far worse. This is a bad ending to a good story. If K-pop exceeds in openings, it fails in endings. So many amazing albums ruined by half-assed ballads stuck onto the end of an already great album. And this is coming from a ballad lover. There are 1,000,001 other ways to end an album. You could ease into a closer and then proceed with a well thought out ballad, or even scrape it all together and just have a fun pop song and an already fun album. This is supposed to be the piece that keeps people coming back for more, not the only skip on the whole album. If you're not left with a good ending, how are you supposed to enjoy the story again, knowing what you'll be greeted with in the final scenes?